Welcome to What's in My Head podcast. I'm your host, Julian, and today I am gathered, man. We both fucked up on the intro. Today I am joined by Ricky from Spoiler Force podcast. Ricky, part 2, how are you feeling?
I'm excited, man. Honestly, this is my first time doing something like this. And when you brought up this idea, I was like, I never thought of this. Like whenever I do podcast collaborations, it's always like, all right, you hop on one episode of mine, then I hop on one of yours. But to do like a joint podcast like this, it's very different to me. I never thought of it. And then like one of my buddies who does podcasting too, he was like, yeah, Kevin Smith does that too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so I guess it works. I just never thought of it. It never came to my mind. I've been doing this for like a little over 2 years and I never thought of it.
Well, like I said, I get all of this information either from my tech dude, Larry, where he'll send me just links and links and links of stuff on how to get your name out there, what tags to use when you put YouTube videos up, or, what to really hit on or where to post, when to post, and all this other crazy shit. And then just listening to podcasts, because that's all I do, like I mentioned. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is part 2. You're going to have to go to Spoiler Force podcast to get that. All of the links will be in the bottom when this is released. You'll be able to see part 1 and part 2 same day. Same time, same bat channel, all that shit, right? So I just heard him. He's like, this is how you build, a community. This is how you build followers and listeners and all this other shit. You jump on people, they're like-minded. We both have pop culture. You're more in one thing than I am in another thing, vice versa, but you guys all have common ground. So it's like, you might as well jump on there and you do a spot for one, and then you both promote it, and then you go and jump on the other one and you both promote that, and then you're not forcing, because it makes it sound like we're twisting people's arms to go watch these videos, and nobody's twisting an arm to watch a video. It should all be fun. But you're kind of forcing, in a sense, the audiences to go and try out something that they might not have tried. Like I gave, My Hero in Academia such a huge, I shit on this place. Like I said in the first episode, I did not give this the fair shake that it deserved, and kind of eating my own words at this point. So, I thought about it, it sounded, and I was like, shit, man, it sounds cool. And then you started talking about My Hero like we were doing on your last episode. And I'm like, well, fuck, man, I can do this. This is fun. This is the easiest part of the day, is just sitting here talking to like-minded people, man. And kind of where we ended was with Bakugo. And I talked so much on this past podcast, so I'm going to turn the reins. I'm going to push the mic towards you this time. I want to know how you got started into this, and then we'll get back into the Bakugo part 2 talk.
Yeah, so how I got started into just podcasting, I honestly, it was in the end of 2015, 2016, around there. I had no idea that it ever existed. I when I think about it now, it's just like almost like radio, sort of, but it's not like at a station. Like, it's getting similar, but I never thought of just talking to the screen or a mic or recording it and just uploading it. That never came across my mind before. So one of my buddies he went to like a tech school for like digital arts, and shout out to my boy Andrew Lee, man. He's the one that's put me on podcasting. So we kind of just linked up together. He's been like a good friend of mine for the past 10 years, and he's like, Ricky, we need a third guy on a podcast that we want to do, and we want someone's perspective that's not really into comic books, but someone who knows comic books. And at that time, I was just getting into comic books again, so I very like my opinions are very just like general public, just regular people, like people who don't really know. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I'll just fill up the space. And then by the time I knew it, we started up. It was called Pop Luck Podcast. We started that. It was me, my buddy Andrew, and another associate, and we did it for like a good year and a half or so. And just I guess timing was just bad. And like we were recording episodes every other week, and scheduling was getting in the way, and then we all just kind of had our own thing going. So I guess we had to just part ways, or not really part ways, but stop podcasting.
Yeah.
And then like I've said in the part 1 of our collaboration, Rob Paulson was a big motivator for me. And I was just at work listening to his podcast, and hearing him talk with like the voices of actors like Dante Bosco, James Arnold Taylor, Billy West, hearing him talk and just being so expressive. Like, man, I need to do something. I ain't doing shit from coming home from work. I need to be creative. So podcasting, I already had like a little feel of it already. So I was like, I told my guys, I was like, hey, let me run the pop luck page for a little bit, just to get me started, because we had like at not even not even 300 likes at this point, but we were just stagnant. We weren't posting anything. So in March of April, I started coming up with ideas. I was doing, very simple thumbnails and stuff like that. And then in May of 2019, I launched my first episode. And I was doing like comic book reviews and movie reviews. It was just all solo stuff, just me. I literally recorded on my iPhone. Had these little, clip-on mics. And then gradually I started pulling in like some actor friends of mine. I had a cousin who was in the movie Gran Torino, so he talked about his experience with Clint Eastwood.
Great movie.
Yeah, and I had another friend who's like I guess he has his own local film team in Michigan here. Shout out to they're gonna hate me for not remembering their crew. That's like so much going on in my head right now.
We can do a real shitty, like, leave everything out, and then we put in like the nicest ad. That production company was such and such. At this point, you can call them at this number. We'll just do something like that if you want.
It's all right. Shout out to my boy Chin. I don't know who I'm talking about. Chin Mong Yang. Shout out to him. And but yeah, he was like my second guest. We talked about films and acting and stuff like that. And then I guess just like, being in the Hmong community too, there's tons of content creators out there that was like inspiring me too. Like that really motivated me. So I was like, man, I need to jump on getting some guests, because doing the solo stuff, I had like 1 or 2 episodes solo that kind of like got not even traction, but like it got people noticing who I was. Mm-hmm. So people were like, oh, Ricky, you podcast. I didn't know you did that. So I was like, all right, I got to start pulling some guests. And then I reached out to like, some international people, like Benjamin Nuss. He's a German jazz player, for like a jazz musician for like the Final Fantasy stuff. Mm-hmm. I had like the Final Fantasy Union podcast. They're the most like downloaded Final Fantasy themed podcast, and they're from the UK. Them, Rachel Lynn, she's an artist. Like a lot of Comic-Con pop culture kind of guests. That's a lot of artists and stuff like that. So I was pulling them, and then and then once I think I hit like my 1 year mark earlier this year in May, and I was just like, I wanted to, something sparked. I just like, I want to get more podcasters on my podcast too, to learn and build a community. Cause I think that's what's really the hardest part is like, you see these groups, they're all like sub for sub and play for play. And I'm like, that's not really helping you, man. So, and that's how I came across you, just like finding people and working with other podcasters. And yeah, that's how I got to where I'm at now. It's just, when I think about it, man, it doesn't even seem that long ago. Like almost 2 years into doing this, 2 to 3 years doing this on my own, editing. I had like one friend do like my thumbnail or my logo, but other than that, like all the audio editing, video editing, I do that all on my own.
That's fantastic, because I tried. So when, like I told you on the last one, I started out doing, my Vanilla Gorilla Kitchen, right? My whole goal, I was going to open up a food truck earlier this year. And then like once the shutdown, everything like that started, I was like, I can't do this. They tell you when to go home. They tell you can and you can't serve. They're taking your livelihood, which is like a blessing in a sense, because it's a lot of money to start, a food truck. It's a lot of money to work in this. I mean, over 50% of restaurants close within their first year. That's including food carts to food trucks to restaurants to actual brick and mortar places. So it was kind of like a blessing in disguise, but I can't remember where I heard it or who said it. It had to have been, either the Rogan podcast, or you'd brought up Kevin Smith earlier. It's funny because Kevin Smith has played such a huge role in my development as far as both podcasting, but in a sense that I was doing something that I wanted to do when it came to cooking. I've been wanting to do this since I was 12. I wanted to be a chef. And I was listening to one of his episodes on Hollywood Babylon. And, he goes, if you're not doing whatever you love right now, and it was right after his heart attack, I believe. He's like, if you're not doing what you love right now, what the fuck are you waiting for? Life is too young. He's like, I almost died, right? And I got to do everything I wanted to do. And he's like, if I would have died at that point in time, I couldn't have been mad, because I got to do and say everything I wanted to say. And then, flash forward a couple months later, when everybody or a year later or whatever it was, everybody tells you to go home. You don't have anything to do here anymore. You can't cook for people. People aren't coming into restaurants. I heard Rogan podcast and he was like, there's nothing worse than being an artist, right? And not having anybody to say what you're trying to say, whether it be painting. You don't have anybody to show that painting to. You don't have anybody, if you're a singer, you don't have anybody to sing to. You know, me as a chef, you don't have anybody to cook for, right? So I needed a change. I needed something. And that's really how this came into it. And like I told you in the last one, when Kobe died, and I heard that Joyner Lucas song, you got to give me the roses while you're here. And like I said, I've only been doing this for a couple months, and this is the most fun I have ever done anything. I mean, with the exception of a few things that I won't mention here, but it's generally free, you know, for the most part. I use Zoom. My guy Larry, he's the best fucking tech guy anybody could ask for. You know, he's always sitting here saying, "Hey, you should do this better. You should do this to do this." I mean, if we try this, you know, it's always having nice to bounce somebody off, you know, bounce ideas off of. And that's what I loved when I reached out and you reached back and you're like, "Yeah, man, fuck it, let's sign up for a collab and we'll do something." And this has been one of my favorite podcasts that I've done so far, and it's just us laughing, joking, shooting a shit about stuff is stupid. You know, I don't mean to diminish My Hero, but it's just something simple and dumb as a fucking cartoon, man. And we're just sitting here talking about it because it elicits an emotion, elicits a feeling out of us. And then you have a different way of looking at something than I do. And to see why you like something or see how you like something that I like as well, and it's differing opinions, you get to see something that you wouldn't see if it was just you watching it. And that's what really leads back to having, you know, being an artist and having something to say and nobody to say it to, right? So, you know, I really enjoy the whole podcasting. And like you said, that podcasting shit, share for a share, sub for a sub, like for a like, review for a review, is dog shit. It's just, it makes no sense. Like, I want feedback. I want to know what I can do better. I want to know how I can make this look better. I want to know how to reach a bigger audience. I want to know what people are really thinking about what I'm trying to say. And you get it by doing shit like this. And like I said, it's just been fun, man.
Yeah, it's, you know, like you've said before, man, it's just got to find people with common ground. And for me, what's worked for me was just finding people who were willing to work with me. Like, we could talk about, or we could have totally different interests, but as long as the conversation is engaging for me, like, I'm down for it. You know, I take my time and do my homework on the guests that I have. You know, sometimes, yeah, there's going to be a few hiccups in some episodes where I don't know what to ask, but that's the point of podcasting. You know, that's how you learn how to talk to people. Yeah, and I think it's so funny to me because, like, before, you know, when I think about how the adults of now, were like, you know, we used to go outside and play and talk to people, you know, like, kids these days don't even know how to talk to other people. We're all on our phones. It's all social media. So podcasting to them is like, wow, it's a whole new thing, man. So I'm just like, we're in that generation. We're just like, we're in both. Like, we knew what it was like to go outside and play, yet we grew up with the internet. So it's not, it's a whole new thing, and it's just, it's wild.
Yeah. So just to keep it back to what we were doing, you know, so we were talking about My Hero and Bakugo having so many layers. When you see a character like, who was your favorite character again? I know we jumped all over the place there. So did you lock it down to Bakugo, or was it just Kaminari? Or not? Was it not Kaminari? I'm sorry.
Tokoyami.
Tokiyami. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, student wise, it's Bakugo. Excuse me. It's Bakugo and Tokoyami for sure. But as the adults or pro heroes, it's definitely Fat Gum. And,
Oh, he's so fantastic.
Yeah, Fat Gum and Endeavor. And then, you know, you can't hate on the big three, man. Lemillion, Tamaki, Haro, like, those three are phenomenal. I mean, and you know, I think Lemillion, though, man, when I first read him about his stuff in the manga, I was like, and he lost his quirk.
Dude, it was so hot. It was so
hot. It was heartbreaking. I was like, why write this great ass character just to lose that shit? I'm like, oh my god. And then that's what makes me, again, my love and hate with Deku. I was like, man, Deku doesn't deserve this shit, man. Like, he should have gave, you know, One for All to Lemillion, or Lemillion should have deserved it. But, you know, at the same time, I go back and rewatch My Hero and go back and reread certain chapters, and then you kind of see, like, yeah, Deku, he deserves it too, and Lemillion is already. And then that's what's great about My Hero is, like, Lemillion, as much as folks want him to have One for All, he was already great with
Yeah.
his quirk. He's an established hero. Like he is already good. And I think a lot of fans kind of forget that. Like it's not that he needs to get One for All. It's like he's already great. It's really just about Deku who needs to grow and be great like that. And we talked about Bakugo. Bakugo is just so he's already like Bakugo. I think Bakugo is steps ahead of Deku though when it comes to being a hero, because there are moments in the show where Deku is willing to die, but then he's not tactical like Bakugo. Bakugo thinks things through. Like when we left off with them doing the exam with All Might, and Deku is telling him like we need to plan things out and fight All Might differently. Bakugo's like gets upset. And he's like, "You idiot! There's no way we can fight this guy. We have to fight and move."
Yeah.
And Midori is just sitting there like, "Oh shit, I didn't think of that." So like that's why I like Bakugo, man. He was already steps ahead. He just didn't want to work with Deku.
It's always great when you see, what's great about shows like this, and what's great about shows that really center around teenage kids, because we were all teenagers at one point. We all had these feelings of insecurity. We had these feelings of like, oh, does she like me? Oh, she's really hot. Is she into me? No, I'm not really into her. Maybe she's in, so we have these commonalities between us as people, because we're all the human race, right? No matter where we come from, we're all at one point in time insecure. We're all, self-deprecating. We're all, just looking to be accepted or looking to be loved. And then that's what makes these characters so endearing, is that it's I can see myself in these characters, and I can see myself in almost every single character. Everybody's had a pervy moment like Minerva, right? Just Grape Juice, whatever his fucking name. I can never remember his name. Grape Juice got a fantastic name because I love grape juice and grape jelly and all that other shit. But we've all had moments where we're like, "Ooh, man, she's sexy. I wonder what." So we've all had that moment. We've also had that moment where Bakugo just completely blows up, or we've all had that whiny little bitch moment with Deku. That was like everybody's huge. Like whenever I start watching the show, everybody's like, "You're gonna hate the first 6 episodes. The main character is a pussy. You're just not gonna like it." They're like, if you could skip the first 6 episodes, and I started watching, I'm like, I loved, I wanted to be in the NBA. I wanted to play basketball professionally when I was younger. So I can, like I said, I can see myself in this character in Deku. It doesn't matter how tall I would be or how fast I was. It's just people are made for certain things. And with me being 6'2", 6'3", and a chunky little white guy, I wasn't going to be in the NBA. I wasn't going to play college. I played high school, so I could see myself in Deku. I wanted something so bad, but it was always just out of reach. Right. So I start, seeing the way they think, the way they move, the way they feel, the way they just cohabitate with all these other characters. And I'm like, I can see myself in every single one of these characters. And I think that's such a great, like a sticking point, or what's great about this writer, this creator that made this fucking outstanding show. And like we said, the last podcast, everybody has a moment to shine, and everybody has a purpose. And what's better than having a purpose? So.
Yeah, I think just the use of these characters, man, because there's so many animes with a variety of characters. Like Naruto's my favorite anime, so there's you got Naruto, Sasuke, and then like guys like Rock Lee, who was one of the favorites, Gaara. But then when it came down to it, it's always just going to be Naruto and Sasuke. But when you look at My Hero, man, they don't really use power scaling like that. So everyone wants to root for their hero. Everyone wants their character to have a big moment. I think that's what, again, like we said before, it's what makes them all great, because they get their moment. And you can't hate on these characters unless that betrayal theory is true. But yeah, I mean, like, if anything, the only character that I'm just like is I can't pronounce her name either, but the Invisible Girl. Like, she's just kind of there.
Yeah. But she isn't, right? I like that.
Right.
What is fantastic, and I had a point and I just lost it. I can't remember where I was going, but that's neither here nor there. Going to some of these characters that we haven't talked about. So when you think of like side characters or supporting characters, we got to take 1A out of here. We've got to take people like Endeavor out of there. What was it? Hawk? That wasn't Hawks. What was the dude that was helping Endeavor? I can never remember his name. At the end of the last episode, he was giving him his feathers. Was it Hawks or
Yeah,
was
it
it?
was Hawks.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Hawks.
So we'll take like those big characters out, right? Um, what are some of your favorite supporting characters or characters that probably didn't have enough shine? We can throw Stain in there too, because I want to talk about that character as well. But one of those characters that I really, really loved was Gang Orca. I put him in this level where he's such a badass, like mob level character. And you think he's instantly a bad guy because of how he looks. But that's just my opinion. What are some of your favorite like supporting role characters in this series?
Well, I'm gonna base it off a little bit of the manga here, so
Okay.
no heavy spoilers. But Mirko, she's the rabbit hero. She was introduced in the last season. She's gonna have a nice moment in the show once they get there. But definitely, it's not. It's funny how like it's not. When I think of it, it's not really so much the heroes, but the villains, man. Because the
Yeah.
villains are gonna get their own arc soon. So I can't say too much on it. But when you learn like the villains and just see their character development and see their perspective of what the hero society is to them, it's very like it's like they're not really anti-heroes, but you see where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Like to them, their justice is what makes them their version of being a hero, but then the heroes to them are villains. It's I never saw it like that before, and we're so used to the black and white. Like these are good guys, these are bad guys. But when you see how the villains are portrayed in My Hero, man, like like I said, the manga right now, like the way how they're doing it, I'm just like rooting for the villains. I'm like, man, Shigaraki better win, So like the story is the story writing or the writing is just so phenomenal, man. Like I can't say enough of it. I can't praise Horikoshi enough, man. Like it's like he's taken bits and pieces of every great anime and twisted it and was like, all right, this is what I got, So it's yeah, the villains, man. I can't say without spoiling. So side characters and supporting characters are definitely some of the villains, and then Mirko, who's one of the top heroes. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've read the other manga series. It's like a prequel sort of, My Hero Academia Vigilantes.
Vigilantes. I actually picked that up by accident because when I saw this first season, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do like I did with Dragon Ball. I'll watch the first, few episodes of something, but I wanted to see, if it was as good as it really was that first season of something, right? Because very rarely do you have lightning in a bottle, right? And very rarely do you have lightning strike in a bottle 2, 3, 4, 5. I think they're up to like what, volume 22, 23, 24, somewhere around there with the series. So very rarely do you have something that continually hits the way this show hits. Movies are the same way, comic books, they've always got something that the wheels always tend to fall off on something very, very quickly. But for whatever it is, it's just the pace this dude's putting shit out. And with as fast as they're putting stuff out, and just the manga alone, just as fast as they are putting it out, and it to be as good as it is, and then it translates even better, for me into a TV show. It's just like I said, we've sat here, we've blown this dude like 14 times at this point. But I mean, this dude he's
Recognize us.
he's a fucking wizard, man. It's fantastic. And what were some of your favorite episodes? We talked about, two of my favorite episodes on your podcast, but what were some of your favorite episodes on this show so far?
Oh man, first one that comes to mind, one that it's so emotional to me. It's when Deku saves Koda, when he fights Muscular. Like that was the moment I was like, this is who Deku is, man. Like he is like I'm getting emotional just talking about like he it's so raw. So like he that's what made me like turn like root for Deku. I'm like, this is a hero right here. Like he was willing to die on the spot for some kid. And fighting Muscular, like they showed the animosity of this villain, man, like how big he was physically, how much more powerful he was. Grown ass man beating up some minor, like it was fucking wild. That whole episode was just concentrated on them. And then like, the buildup of Koda hating heroes because his parents died.
Yeah.
And ironically, it was the same villain that killed his parents that Deku saved them from. And just everything about that scene was just, it was emotionally and visibly just amazing to me. And I go back and rewatch that clip from time to time. I'm just like, man, I don't think nothing's topping this moment for me. But yeah, just that episode and that moment in particular, like, that's my favorite moment of My Hero Academia. But another good episode that or at least I guess another good moment, I can't say episode, but another good moment was probably the Kirishima Fat Gum fight.
Oh,
Yeah, because just Kirishima's development from being like, because he was so prepared. He's like, I trained, I got this new form, I'm ready, and then he just gets blown away by Rappa, another big villain. And then he just learns to just like screw it, toughen up, and go and save Fat Gum. And then the reveal of Fat Gum, he just loses all that weight. I'm like, oh shit, man, his power is so OP. Like just absorbing all the fat on his body and then just using it, and it's pretty much like All Might's punch right there.
yeah.
But yeah, that fight, and then and then Lemillion versus Overhaul, man. Like Lemillion sold me as one of the greatest in there.
Dude, I was watching that, like we talked about on yours. There was a few episodes where it got me right in the feels, and I was stressed out, like I had all the stakes, like this shit was real. Like there was two fucking dudes just throwing hands, and if the bad guy wins, we're all screwed as people, right? I was in that mindset, as like, this shit this shit could be real, or this shit is deep, or this shit is, it's saying something. And that episode where, spoiler alert, Lemillion loses his powers, or loses his quirk, and the way he does it, where he does just like Endeavor did. He threw everything out there, the same thing that All Might did when his flame went out. It was very rarely, at least sober, do I get to that level where I'm like, oh, I can associate, the pain or whatever it is with these characters, and I can really sit here and flesh out and think, man, these guys were thinking this, or these guys were going through this because this was happening. And the Endeavor scene, the Red Riot scene, where he just hardened and just kept going, just went hard in the paint. Then that Lemillion episode, it's just, it's amazing what they can make two-dimensional character. And I said it on yours, like two-dimensional characters into three-dimensional. They gave them the heart, the soul. They gave them everything to really like elicit a response from somebody that was watching it. And there wasn't I don't, it's funny, I don't know which one hits you in the heart more, whether it's Lemillion or Red Riot or Endeavor, because they're all equally, important. They're all equally, they need this story driven. They need to finish out their story arc within these episodes. And they just nail it. I mean, like, we're still sitting here blowing this dude at this point, but it's just, it's so fantastic. And for them to just do this with cartoons, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, like I think it comes down to just like being able to relate to these characters, man. Again, with the writing, I don't know how Horikoshi does it, man. They just, I think it's what makes it seem so real, because like when you see these characters striving for greatness or working so hard to do something, you relate to that, because as adults now, we're in the, like, we're not the students no more. I like to put it like that. We're not the students no more. We're the pro heroes at this point. We gotta strive to be great, so that the people following us can be great. And I think, when you see someone like Lemillion or Endeavor or All Might give it their all, and sacrifice what they wanted for someone else, it hits home.
Yeah. It very, like I said, very rarely do I just get that emotionally attached to something that's not a Ninja Turtle, that's not Batman. It's not, insert favorite superhero here. Very rarely do I, put myself in a line like that. And it's just, like I said, it just goes to a testament of this man doing what he's doing. And I just hope it keeps going for as long as possible. I want this shit to go, and I want to be dead, 80, 90 years down the road type of thing, but I want to be dead and this show's still going on. Hopefully it's got the legs for it, especially if they keep going the way they're going. But you brought up a show that I've never watched, and like you were with Ninja Turtles, please don't hate me, I've never seen a episode of Naruto.
Oh man, and they're both ninjas too.
Yeah, it was so, like I explained in yours when we were talking about like the anime people, much like the comic book people, that's not anime, that's not a comic book, that's not a superhero, that's not this, that, or the other. It's just them justifying why you like something and they don't like something. It's just, I don't fucking get it. But neither here nor there. I just, for some reason, I just couldn't get into it. Like I've watched maybe a few minutes of it, and my kid started watching it. And he was like, "This is really good. We should watch it." And I'm like, He's like, "No, no, 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 no." He's like, "Trust me." He's like, "This is good." And I was like, "All right. Well, you lied to me last time on something. You said that was really good. It was horrible." He's like, "Yeah, but that was a while ago." I was like, "That was 2 months ago." He was like, "Well, I don't know what I was thinking, but this is really good." So we're actually going to start watching that this week. With him going back to school and me going back to work and shit. So we're going to start watching an episode here or there. And we're about to finish up the new Animaniacs as well. So we're going to have something to watch for. But what is it about Naruto that just strikes you so damn hard that this is your favorite, this is your ride or die show on manga?
Well, definitely because of the manga, but you know, it's hard because I was, like my hero, I wasn't a big fan of Naruto at first. I was coming off that hype train of Dragon Ball Z is the greatest, man. No one's beating Goku. Like I was one of those guys. And then I kind of forgot how I got introduced to Naruto. I think I was still in grade school or middle school, somewhere like that age. I was young still. I had an uncle, one of my uncle's younger brothers. He's like a few years older than me. He introduced me to he used to have like Naruto on burned CDs.
Yeah.
And so we watched it, and then you know it had like that 90s esque kind of feel to when you watch the first couple seasons of Naruto, you can tell it has like that old school feel to it.
Yeah.
So I watched it, and then comparing him to excuse me, comparing him to Goku, the orange jumpsuit, blonde hair, Sasuke, the blue, black hair like Vegeta. I'm just like, it's the same thing, just ninjas. And then I think it wasn't until the episode where Naruto, uh, where they meet Kakashi and do their exam with him, where they learn about teamwork. And then this arc here is the one that a lot of fans grew into Naruto was their fight with Zabuza. He's a swordsman, and that was like one of the first arcs that they really showed like death and a change of heart for a villain and stuff like that. So that really just kicked it off for me. And then I talk about the manga. I read a little bit of it in those weekly shonen manga shonen jumps. I used to get those. So but yeah, it just picked up from there. And then as I continued to watch it, and then I really picked up like once I finished that first Naruto, just the regular Naruto show, I had no idea that Shippuden was even like around. And then I had a cousin from Minnesota tell me about Shippuden. I watched that, and then I was watching the anime, and then I my uncle's younger brother, the one that had the burned CDs, he was like, you should read the mangas on YouTube, because apparently they were doing that at the time.
Yeah.
So I would read the mangas on YouTube, and they had like background music playing and everything. So I got super hooked. And then by the time I knew it, I was caught up. And then I've been reading the manga before the show even ended. And just Naruto, like just the writing that Kishimoto does, it's I want to say it's like the catalyst to My Hero, because Naruto is the one that's like, he's hated and shitted on, and his character development is like, work hard for what you want, and don't and understand not just your opponent, but like everyone's pain too. And I think that's what made Naruto so different from me, was because like Deku, he understood what it was like to be different. And I think that really resonated with me, especially being a young kid, so I think that's really strikes home for me, is because I feel like I grew up in Naruto. I was a kid when I watched him as a kid. Then I was a teenager when I seen him in Shippuden, and now with Boruto, his son series, Naruto's an adult, he's a dad. I'm around that same age. I could potentially have a kid too, but like I could be like that too. So I'm like, I'm practically growing up with Naruto, man. So that's why, like, I think that's what makes it so personal for me. I think that's why I make, to me, it's the GOAT, because it's like you said, there's something about it that makes it just so human. But these are just fictitious characters, and the jokes, like, we learn more from anime characters than from real people. But yeah, man, like just the story itself, Naruto, it really just resonated with me. And I think it was just the times, like teaching unity and teaching to acceptance to your comrades and understanding the villains, but even though like knowing what the villains are doing is wrong, but still understanding their version of justice. Like we talked about how Shigaraki and the villain and the League of Villains have their version of what their justice is. In Naruto, there's a villain in there called Pain, and he's the leader of the Akatsuki, which is the main villain group. Naruto fights Pain. Pain like wipes out Naruto's village, and Naruto's like, I'm gonna, once I get up from off the floor, I'm gonna come and kill you because you destroyed my village. And Pain tells him like, well, what makes it different from what makes your justice different from mine? Your village killed my village, so I'm delivering that same justice to you. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like these villains are amazing. So it's so good, man. Like I get goosebumps hearing that, even the English dub scenes. Like just hearing the writing, man. It just like that scene was like, man, I at that point, like there's this joke with Naruto, like it's all talk no jutsu, like where he just talks to his opponents, and then they go, oh man, I feel bad now, I don't want to do it no more. But like the joke was like Pain was the first one to reverse Uno card that to Naruto. Like he talked back and was like, what are you gonna do about it? Like my justice is the same as yours, and Naruto just shut up. I was like, damn, man, like it's some real shit.
It's fantastic because we talked earlier in your podcast where we said we can really sit here and justify anything. If I, like I said, go and steal food because my family's hungry, I don't have money, I'm going to say I'm in the right because I'm doing something good. But even though it's bad, I'm justifying it as being a good deed. And we can all see that in characters. It's no, like I said, nobody is 100% good or 100% bad. There's gray in everybody, right? And that's what makes characters or books, movies, TV shows, that's how we relate, right? So we can be put in that position when you think about it, like, oh, I'm going to come here and destroy your entire village. You don't know why he's doing it, and then you ask him why. He's like, well, I mean, your people came over and killed my people, so eye for an eye. But then we start to think, well, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind, right? That whole proverb, that whole saying, or whatever the fuck that's from, is probably from the Bible or some shit. I don't know. I hear it all the time though. um, it really makes a sense, like, shit, man, when we sit here and think about it, there's not very much that's different between you and I as a hero or a villain. It's just how we go about cohabitating together. It's like how we get, not so much along because we're at different ends or different spectrums, or you think one way, I think one way. We're not going to change each other's opinions. We just got to find a way to, work through the differences. And when you can see, strife in a character, you can see, characters having this inner turmoil, whether it be with themselves, with their people, with their village, with, other villages. It just goes to show you like how human of a problem this cartoon is really talking about. And when it goes and it talks about all this stuff, you said it jumps from a kid to a teenager to an adult, Naruto in a sense. We've all thought like a kid, we've all thought like a teenager, and now we're thinking like an adult. And we can sit here and associate any stupid idea we had as a kid was just inexperience. It was youth. It was us thinking, one way when we really didn't have the entire picture. We didn't know that our entire village slaughtered this guy's village, and in a sense, we're doing that now in the real world, right? So with the whole, and I don't want to go down this conspiracy theory type of bullshit, but something to be brought up, and how, when this is the first thing I thought of when you were telling me this, in Marvel, the Iron Man, right? Tony Stark was nuking, or not nuking, they were using his missiles to just destroy cities. And I think it was Age of Ultron with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. He was like, we hid under a table with your name on a missile for 3 fucking days, waiting for it to blow up. We, in a sense, or Tony, in a sense, created this evil because he was doing what he thought was right by selling, these goods to a government agency. And we saw it with the Iraq war, a war that we were never going to win. It doesn't matter what they say. We've lost more men. I've lost more friends, more family members. I've lost just more brothers and sisters out there, in a sense that, we're going to fight a war that was just over difference of opinion or difference of how somebody thought. And if you're listening to this and you're thinking I'm fucking just shooting shit at this point, it's really not. I mean, it's we saw something that we thought was bad, but we tried to take advantage of that, right? So we're making our enemies, right? It's not so much we're making enemies now, but we're making future enemies. We're making kids that are growing up that their dads, their moms, or their friends were killed by a drone, in the same light as Naruto's village came and destroyed that other guy's Pain's village. We're doing that in the world. And for me, I can automatically sit there and go, I'm going to watch the show Naruto now, because I can sit here and see everybody doing this shit. It's, you don't have to, well, what do they say in Iron Man? It's like, you just got to be the guy with the bigger stick or some shit like that. You don't have to
Yeah.
have the best weapon. You just got to be the guy with the bigger stick. Um, it's like weird real world problems brought into an animated sequence, and then you're able to recept it and digest it a little bit better than seeing drone footage of us bombing some country, or some kid, both of his parents are dead because we dropped bombs. It's just something like that. I'm not, like I said, I'm not trying to get on this. I was in the military, so it's not like I'm a part of that era or that way of thinking, but it's just like when you take a step back and you look, you're like, shit, man, these guys are taking real world problems, they're putting them into a book, they're putting them onto a cartoon show, and they're making it sound like we are not being talked down to as kids. And I think that's what connected so much for me with some of these cartoons, is we're not sitting here being talked down to, we're not being talked to like we're an idiot kid, we're being shown real stuff, but it's up to us to sit here and kind of receive it, think about it, regurgitate it, and then looking at it with adult eyes, it's scary and it's shocking, especially when this stuff was on, like, what, Nickelodeon Cartoon Network, that back in the day Naruto was.
Yeah.
It's crazy when you sit here and think about it. Probably as a little kid, I couldn't have connected those dots like a serial killer. I couldn't sit here and draw one string to the next to sit here and say that. But going through the experiences I've went through and seeing what I've seen, I was like, I can connect now because it's happened in the real world. It's happening right now in real life. You destroy one to bring up another, but you're creating a never-ending cycle of hate, a never-ending cycle of just destruction, right? And it's breeding the same sense. It's, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill you, and then at the end of the day, it's like, why the fuck are we doing this, man? Like, why can't we just go have a beer? Why can't we just go smoke a joint? Why can't we just sit here and collaborate, if you will, no pun intended, right? So I like everything you just told me about this show is going to be the reason I go and watch this show with my son now. So I'm glad we at least talked about that, and then we got something else to watch, because like I said, he was telling me how great it was. I was telling him he was full of shit, but you telling me some of the stuff, it's an eye-opener in a sense. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you though. Like Naruto, it is pretty lengthy for like an anime. Plus, there's fillers too. So, I wasn't too big on the fillers, so that's why I read the manga.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think once you get through like the main story and kind of just get the grasp of who the characters are, and especially just the relationships between these characters, I think that's what makes it, again, that's what makes it for me the greatest of all time. Like the series itself, it's like you said, man, real world problems in this anime. Like as an adult now, when I look at it, I'm just like, man, like it's so true. And then as a kid, you don't notice that stuff. But a little tangent here, like another anime though, I don't know if you've seen it, but if you like that real world stuff, is Attack on Titan.
I knew you were going to say that show. I just watched the first episode last night. My tech guy, Larry, he comes over all the time, and then he's like my kid's uncle type of thing, right? So I've known him since like 2007 era. We played on the same basketball team. We've been friends forever. And my kid kept hounding him. He's like, when are you going to watch My Hero? When are you going to watch My Hero? I was like, don't pester Larry anymore, because he's not going to watch it. I've been trying for the last 8 months, whatever it is. And he looks at me, he's like, you know what, Hayden, since you asked me to watch it, I'm gonna go ahead and watch it. I'm like, man, fuck you, Larry. I was like, I've been asking you for months. My kid asks you one time. I was like, you're gonna watch it now? And he was like, well, I'll tell you what, I'll watch the first season of My Hero if you watch the first season of Attack on Titan. I was like, all right, done. I was like, I got a pretty busy week this week, but I'll watch at least the first episode coming up on Sunday. 3 days later, he's finished the entire series, and he's telling me he can't wait. So we're gonna do an episode. He's got this tier ranking app. It's probably like Tier List or some shit like that. So we're gonna do an episode with him and my son. So all three of us, and we're gonna sit here and we're gonna rank our favorite episodes, our favorite characters, And then like my kid is a fucking sponge, right? He's 10, and he'll sit there. I'll say something. He was like, "Yeah, but that didn't happen." I was like, "What? No, it 100% happened." He's like, "No, Dad, this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. You're confusing it with this, and the other." And I'm like, "Motherfucker, this kid is way too fucking smart. He makes me feel like an idiot." So, but yes, I'm really looking forward to that episode. And it's just, I don't want to go back down the My Hero rabbit hole, because we'll just sit here and talk and blow this dude consistently again. But yeah, I'm really gonna look into it, and I like the first episode of Attack on Titan.
Yeah, Attack on Titan though, like what made it, that first episode is what made me get hooked. That shock factor right there, and I think more animes are gonna try to. I think a lot of anime now are that they're doing that, adding a little bit more of a twisted feeling to it, like
Yeah.
giving you some sort of false hope. But over like Attack on Titan's final season or the premiere starts, I think next week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, if you're into like the conspiracy stuff and like just how can I word this, but like it's like there's a quote in there where one of the captains tells the main character, he's like who are the real enemies here, you know, like that's the question, man. I'm like, oh shit, you know. So Attack on Titan is just more than what it seems, you know, than they set it out to be. But they, I forgot the writer's name already. The manga is almost done, and I'm afraid to get to these last pages, man, because I know that once this series ends, it's gonna be the end of something that I loved for so long, you know. And like I'm like slowly reading these last few pages here, and the chapters are wrapping up, because I think like the writer, he only has like he claims that there's like 1 or 2% left of the series, and I don't know what to expect, because if like, you like Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
then that's exactly what it is. You're gonna see some deaths and some characters that you might hype up for, and they die. So like you can't stand anyone in the show. And the same goes for like Demon Slayer too. I don't know if you've seen Demon Slayer.
That's another one that everybody tells me I should be watching.
Yeah, Demon Slayer was caught me by surprise, man. Because it's funny, because when I watched Demon Slayer, I just finished watching the show Goblin Slayer, and Goblin Slayer is like for those D&D fans. I feel like lowlies and shit like that. That's for you guys. But yeah, I was like Demon Slayer right after Goblin Slayer. Like they couldn't come up with anything more creative, you know. So I gave it a shot, and I think what really hit home for me for Demon Slayer was the family aspect. I think that's something that hasn't really been. I'm pretty sure there's other animes out there that do it, but for me, this was like one of the very few that I've seen. I was like, damn, you know, like there's no like hero-esque or like a primary. I mean, like there's the protagonist, but like it didn't have that like good guy versus bad guy kind of thing. It's just really about a boy trying to save his sister, and
Yeah.
you know, and his and then just to save his family, and they really imply like family dynamics, and you know, the love for family, what you would do for that, and friendship and stuff like that. It's similar, but it's not. There's something just different about it. And the manga finished early this year, and the movie is gonna drop in the States sometime next year. So, you know, I was watching that. They had a Deku moment too, like how Deku fought Muscular. There's episode 19 of Demon Slayer, man. Like that one, I legit teared up watching that one. I was like, damn, it was so emotional. The music and the I forgot what's Ufotable. I think that's the animation studio. Like their animation, it's so good. Like these guys have a crazy budget for what they're doing for just the show. But Demon Slayer was like one that really stood out to me too. And yeah, I mean, like these are more like mainstream animes, but there's a reason why Demon Slayer is one of the tops right now, man. Because like folks are loving this shit. Like I think last year's manga sale records, I might be wrong, but like they were putting One Piece at competition, and One Piece is a long running anime series too.
Yeah. When I started going down this anime route, because once we finished My Hero, I wanted to watch something else with my son. And there was a few that came up. Naruto, of course, The Last Airbender, which I still haven't seen the entire series. I've seen, I think the first season at this point, or maybe half of the first season. And what is it, like Hunter x Hunter or some shit like that, or Hunter, something, I don't know, something along those lines. Everybody says that
Yeah.
one was really good. The demon one is the one you brought up as well, and Attack on Titan. It's just what I've found these days is there's so much content out there, and it's so hard to just retain information, let alone get onto something new. But I've got my little notepad here, and I've already written down Attack on Titan because I have to follow through and watch at least the first season, because I made the deal with Larry. He had to watch the first season of My Hero, and he banged out the entire fucking series. The prick. So he just had to show me up at this point. But
I think for you, the Attack on Titan season 1,
mm,
I think you'll enjoy it
yeah,
because there's a lot of mystery to it, and the way how they finish it off to lead on to season 2 and beyond. Like it at least for me, it kept me wanting more. Like I
yeah.
wanted to find out the secrets. So I think that's what's gonna most likely draw you in, is like the what plot holes they leave behind and stuff like that. Just connecting the dots.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I watched the first episode. I'm gonna have to watch it again. I had a few too many edibles and then a few too many joints, and I was spacey. I was like, oh, this is gonna be great, and then I'm like, oh, I don't remember shit. But it's neither here nor there. So as we're starting to wind down here, man, I always like doing this. In some way, it's the same question, really, but in the same sense, it's really not, man. So when you sit here and you think about everything that you really love, right? From Naruto to My Hero, to just anime in general, manga. You said you started out with comic books. Looking back on what you've done over these last 2 years, right, with this podcast, what are your goals for progressing? What do you want to accomplish when it's all said and done? When you've pushed up your microphone up or down, depending on how you have your microphone, for the last time. You've done your last podcast, you've done your last YouTube video. What do you want your lasting impression, or what do you want to feel or accomplish with podcasting?
Oh man, that is a great question.
It's some deep shit, man. We got
Yeah,
some inspirational philosophical shit, if you will.
yeah,
So
that's a pretty deep question. Honestly, I've never really put much thought into it because, like how I am right now, I kind of just did everything on my own.
mm,
But if the time came to where like I had to really just my last episode and look back at my life's content here that I'm making, whether it's the next year or whatever happens, um, I think really I just want to leave the impression of being able to fully express myself.
mm,
I'm a big Bruce Lee fan, and
fantastic.
Bruce Lee's, express yourself the way how he quotes that, and to express yourself through your art, and to keep practicing, and
Be
to
like
keep
water.
yeah to keep working at something, and something about Bruce Lee's philosophy has been always inspiring to me, and I especially being Asian too, and seeing his life work, him dying young like that, and then Brandon Lee, his
Yeah.
son, rest in peace to him too. He died young too, and and Shannon Lee is carrying on their work. But I something about Bruce Lee, man, he that really motivates me to kind of just like leave an impression on the world, to kind of, even if it's a few people, to leave an impression on my audience, to know that you have to really just be yourself. I think for me growing up, it was so hard to really express who I was. That's why, like, now as an adult, when I look at it, it's very funny because with podcasting, these are like moments where I can truly just be myself.
Hmm.
Whether we're talking about anime or mixed martial arts, or just podcasting in general. I think you know recording these moments is what I want people to kind of just remember me by, and I take it super seriously, and yeah, just being able to just fully express myself and leaving no regrets behind. Not because I guess for me, just it's just like I really wanted to just say something, and I think for any podcaster out there who's, or any artist really, I may not be a professional podcaster or artist or something, but at least I'm doing something that I want. you know,
Yeah.
and it's more than just a passion, you know, whether there's income or no income. I'm not regretting I'm not regretting doing this, you know.
Mm.
So I think that's what it really comes down to.
It's a beautiful message to really end on. You know, I'm in the same boat, man. I want to say stuff. I want to have a voice, but the main thing, like when I really sit down and think about it, podcasting, it's talking, it's having conversations. This is what civilization was built on. Civilization was built on bread, sitting down with somebody, whether it was close, far, like we're doing now, man. You're in Detroit, I'm in Florida. Um, and breaking bread, no pun intended, with people, just seeing how people think, how people work out issues, how people get through day to day. And for the longest time, and I said it on your podcast that I was afraid of releasing an episode because I just didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way I sounded. You know, I'll sit here and stutter, or I'll bring something up, just, you know, stupid insecurities. And then I really thought about it, and I was like, man, you know, whether it's tomorrow or 100 years from now, hopefully I get lucky enough and I can make it to 100. Um, you know, you never know when your time really is to go. Whenever that fucking punch card is punched, man, you got to clock out regardless of if you want to or not. And if there's one thing I could really do, because my biggest fan really is my son. My son listens to all my episodes. Um, you know, and I'm gonna love, because YouTube will be here for longer than I'll ever be here. You know, as long as as long as YouTube just doesn't go out and start raping puppies, or, you know, selling crack to fucking 2 year olds, or, you know, doing just stupid shit like that. They're gonna be around forever, you know, and for somebody like my son to come back, you know, after I'm gone, you know, hopefully it's fucking a long way away. But to sit here and for him to hear how much I go on about him during these podcasts, because he always comes up in at least, you know, 2 times an episode. But for him to really sit there and hear, you know, like how proud I am of him, or how much I love him, or, you know, just how everything I've done for him and my wife, and everybody else in my family. It brings a smile to my face. I sit here and think like, man, you know, regardless of what I sound like, regardless of what I would look like, regardless of what I talk about, I fucking started out doing this shit because I wanted to talk about Ninja Turtles. I want to talk about the people that shaped my fandom, my pop culture, my geek, my nerd, whatever you want to call it, whatever you call yourself, whatever you classify yourself. Um, I got to do it. And, you know, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether one person listens or whether a million people listen, I don't know. I'm having fun doing it. And what fucking George said last night, it's passion over, you know, profit. And this has been probably the deepest I've ever been on any episode, because we got to flush out a whole bunch of ideas. We spent roughly about 2 hours worth talking. Um, and we've never met before. You know, we've talked a little bit on, you know, Facebook Messenger and all this other shit when we were setting everything up. Um, you know, but it's nice to know that no matter where you're at, no matter where you come from, no matter what you look like, what you sound like, you know, whether you rep Naruto or Dragon Ball Z or My Hero, or you're a Magic fan or you're a Pistons fan. I still remember the Malice at the Palace. It's one of my favorite memories growing up. Seeing fucking Meta World Peace back in the day. It was Ron Artest boys and girls getting fucking Gatorade just splash thrown in the face, and then a fucking ruckus just ensues. You know, all of these times, you know, are captured on TV, right? And these guys are professional athletes. I'm not, like you said, you know, one day I hope to be a professional podcaster. You know, we're doing it now, so we might be amateurs in a sense, but, you know, Bruce Lee always said, man, and I'm a butcher this phrase, but he wasn't afraid of that dude that threw 10,000 kicks, 10,000 different kicks. He was afraid of that motherfucker that's going to come out and he's thrown one kick 10,000 times. That's the dude he's really worried about, man. And it's the same thing in a sense that if you put in the hours, if you've got the passion, if you've got the love, if you've got, you know, the it factor, if you will, the magic, right? If you got that, eventually everybody will come around. And regardless if you have 1,000 people or 100 people, you're still making an imprint, right? You know, so like I said, when I sat out to do this, it was just for that one thing. But your emotions, your thought process, how you break shit down really changes as you go on. And at the end of the day, man, if I don't do more than 1,000 views, who gives a shit, man? Because my son's gonna sit back here and he's gonna look at this and he's gonna smile whenever he sits me. He probably shaking his head now because he's like, "Oh, Dad, you don't ever shut the hell up," you know. But he's gonna sit here and see or hear me, you know, in a different light other than just Dad. It's me, you know, bragging about my kid. It's me, you know, being happy to be a father. It's me talking real shit with people that are real, regardless of if they're a voice actor or a fellow podcaster or the fucking trash man down the street. And that's not diminishing trash men ever. We need trash men. We need trash women. Um, you know, if somebody's got something interesting to say, if somebody's got something they want to talk about, I want to talk to them, right? I love talking to anybody and everybody that just wants to talk, man. It's the easiest thing we can do. It's the best way to bridge a gap, man. It starts with food, it goes to movies, it goes to pop culture. You're into what I'm into. Oh, fuck, man, we're friends now, right? So it's crazy what just talking can do, what listening can do, what interacting with people you've never met in real life before can do. And like me and like you, I mean, it's we're having fun. We're doing something that we get to show a side we probably don't get to show very often. I don't know about you. I mean, I got Ninja Turtles all over my arm, you know, so I've got the Iron Giant on the top of that, you know.
I got a Naruto shirt right here.
Yeah, and
Itachi.
I'm wearing fucking ET, right? With the Batman hoodie and a magic hat. I mean, if you look around, everything is so diverse, like people we talk to, right? You know, and if I can say anything, man, this has been a very fun conversation. I got to find a way where we can do this like once a month where we just fucking sit here and we just chit chat. It doesn't have to be about anything in particular, man. We can do the same thing we're doing now, or we can just shoot the shit on fucking Zoom call. We don't even have to record it and put it up. It could be for us, man. This is a lot of fun. I really appreciate you taking the time for me today, man. And as we wrap it up, is there anything that you'd like to say? Plug the fuck out of your social media. Tell people where they can go and find Ricky, man.
All right, so you guys can find my stuff at Spoiler Force Podcast on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. It should all be under Spoiler Force Podcast. And yeah, I'm slowly doing live episodes, so those will be on Facebook and Twitch. My Twitch channel is twitch.tv/Ricky Vang. And yeah, you can find my podcast on audio on all major podcasting platforms. You know, preferably Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Play or Google Podcast and SoundCloud and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, just as long as you look for Spoiler Force Podcast, I think, I mean, it's a mouthful, but it's definitely one that you could just look up and find. But yeah, and you know, Julian, I want to say this too, man. Thank you so much for this collaboration, man. Like this was your idea that to do this, and so I give you this credit, man, because honestly, dude, like I did not think it was gonna be this fun.
Yeah.
Like not saying that it wasn't fun, but I was like, because I've never done this before, so the angst kind of was like, oh, I don't know how this works. But now that I know how this works, man, this was great. You know, we talked about so many things, and like you said, man, it's just finding common ground. I think you do such a good job at that, especially coming from like a chef's point of view, cooking food for everyone, you know, so you have a great base of just understanding other people.
Yeah.
So I really applaud you for that, you know, for being able to speak so well for your podcast. And I hope to see more of your content, man. Like I said, when I saw your stuff, dude, I was just like, wow, man, this guy is doing something different that stands out. And I tell a lot of the other podcasters that I work with too, man, like I'm watching you guys, you know, because you don't know who's gonna pop.
Yeah.
There's whoever you're working with, they might blow up the next day. And because you were nice enough to just work with them or vice versa, like you never know, the opportunities might be there. So, you know, I thank you for this, man. Like it's been great.
Now, I'm going to end it with this, and it's really two things. One, the way I end every podcast is I smack the shit out of my mic, and something I heard on another podcast, I think it was Chris Jericho, was talking about Ozzy, man. He was talking about Ozzy was like, always be kind to people on the way up, because you never know who you're really going to run into when you come back down, right? Everything goes in ebbs and flows. Everything's got peaks and valleys and crests and all this other shit, man. So there's room at the table for everybody. You just got to make a little room, slide your chair over, get a little tight, man, and everybody can sit at the table. There's room for everybody to eat, right? And like I said, man, this has been fun. I want to do this again sometime soon, whenever your schedule clears up. I've got some not heavy hitters, but I got some, not bigger guests, because I don't want to diminish the guests, but I got some, some big things happening soon. I got a whole bunch of plays, and I never like to say who I'm putting out next, because it's always just a crapshoot. Like, somebody's like, oh man, I wish I could hear somebody that was in Guild Wars 2. I was like, oh shit, I got a couple people that were in Guild Wars 2. Let me just release those and see what happens. But nonetheless, man, he's been Ricky. I've been Julian. This has been What's in My Head, and we are out of time. Thank you again, Ricky. I appreciate you coming on. I can't wait to do this again.
Yeah, same here, man. Thank you so much, man.
No problem, buddy.